So we need to go back to 2017, 2018. At that time, we were thinking about something that we wanted to build that was global, but we didn't know exactly what. But in one of the previous experiences at IT Gambit, through a project that we had at that company, we ended up seeing the workflow of 50 animal hospitals. And we lived there day by day with the vets, and we saw how many horrendous redundancies are in a practice.
Like how many problems there are to be solved for them.
And just one story that again stuck with me is that a vaccine visit needs to be like 5 minutes in and out. And we went there and we stayed with a vet, and we saw how after the visit he spent 10 minutes for the 5-minute visit just writing down in different reports
filling
the same
in paperwork, like exactly the same information, but in different places, like different records, different registries.
And we found out later, like this year is the year where the average age of a vet technician is lower than the average age of the legacy old PIMS, practice management systems that they're using in practices. So an average vet tech is 32 years old, an average practice management system is 33.
And they look exactly like you expect them to look.
So after seeing this, also being pet parents, we wanted to do something in the space. So that's how we slowly started working on what at that year it became Digitail.
Interesting. I think we have very different stories. For example, myself, like I never thought I'm gonna be on the startup path. Like I never liked risk. I still don't. So somehow I don't know how I ended up here. But I think kind of early on, like since I was in high school, I was going to different events and community events and workshops, and I was doing a lot of volunteering work. And I think I got exposed to a lot of entrepreneurs and like just people that are building things. Like it doesn't matter if it's like a small local project or like something with an European fund or anything like that. And I was like very impressed, and I had a lot of imposter syndrome also, like being 14, 16 and going to this type of events. But I think that those experiences like really stuck with me, and I was like, okay, there are things happening. There are like so many ideas, so many problems, so many things that can be solved. And then kind of just following through high school and university, that's also what helped me decide on studying computer science. Kind of seeing all these problems, I realized that okay, technology is an easy way to solve the majority or like a pretty big number of these problems. Yeah.
On my side, I think I was the nosy, curious type of person for a really long time. Like my first company was in 2011. After I came back from university, I did a bachelor in business in Barcelona, and then I came back to Romania and started IT Gambit, and that was basically the agency where we ended up building more than 100 products. That's also where we met the first time. We worked together on what was at that time a food delivery app, before all the food delivery apps were in Romania. And it's always about, I think for me, it's always about finding the hardest challenge that's worth spending time on and trying to solve that.
And I think also being from Iași, which is kind of a small city, you get to know the people that are actually doing things. So one way or another, like sooner or later, like we were meant to meet. And like, even now, like we have kind of the same community, and we know kind of the same people, because these are the people that are changing things every day. And they started a few years back and still rocking it. I mean, that's still a possibility, that's the fun part in startups. Like you are never sure that, this is successful or this is gonna work. So in a lot of perspectives, you just really have to take it day by day and be glad that you're still here. This is like the more gloomy version maybe. Yeah. Plan B. I don't think so.
I actually love the question. So, the way I think about it is that we have different stages in life, right? And through this 25 to 35 or to 40 is the stage where you can make a lot of mistakes, and it's the time when you have accelerated growth and energy to do that. So for me, I think the only fail is if I wouldn't have done this and I wouldn't have spent all the energy into learning, building, and going through these challenges. So in a nutshell, maybe plan B was just figuring out logistics or figuring out something on the economic side, but it was never not like stopping. Stopping wasn't really an option. So I think also this depends on each stage. So at the beginning, you have the challenges of finding the first customers, trying to get the first 10 customers. Well, even before that, trying to get a team to work on something where you have zero resources. And then it goes, as you grow, the problems just become bigger. So you always think that, oh, we'll get that investment, things will become easier, we'll have more money, more people,
We'll
and all of
double
that.
the team and things are going to be nice and easy.
But all of those just unlock more challenges that are coming through. So I would say probably, again, also recency bias, but it's the challenges that we have now with building a multicultural team that needs to have higher and higher standards of execution. And that's in itself a challenge.
I think we had a global ambition from day one. Like the first website and the first prototype that we've built, everything was in English from the beginning. I think also what we were seeing around us, like reading a lot of TechCrunch and kind of being exposed to these more international businesses, it was kind of the only way. I don't think we ever thought of this as being just a local company.
And just local content, that doesn't mean a bad thing. It means a good thing. It's like always finding the problems you want to solve. But for this type of business to work globally and to be in a VC-backed environment that's fast-paced, you need to unlock a big enough problem to solve a big enough problem. And the big enough problem wouldn't have been just in Romania. Again, now I'm talking with the power of hindsight and knowing backwards. But at that time, I think, so the way I explain this is that building startups is exactly like swimming in the ocean. Because you start swimming, you basically, before you try to see if there's an island, you see the island, you start swim, then you get your head up, calibrate, and swim again, and you do this until you get the island. But initially, when we started, there was no island. We didn't see. We just knew directionally that there's an island somewhere, which was, again, global growth. But we didn't know what that means, and we didn't know where the island was. So yeah, from a sales perspective, client perspective, yes, core of our business would be in North America. From a team perspective right now, we're still heavily...
I think at least half of the team is in Romania, and these are also the first people that join us. So they had a very big impact on the culture and on the entire team that we have today. So I think this is like still felt a lot, which is very nice, like in a very positive way. Like actually one of our values is Romanian grandmas, which it's a bit hard to explain, and it actually came from our international colleagues, but it's about this feeling of feeling cozy, like going into your grandma's house and, you know, getting all the food, like just making sure that you're comfortable and everything is nice and everybody's friends and you just have a good time where people like don't judge you and they encourage you, and
having someone that cares about you. Okay, I'm pretty passionate about this topic because I've seen the impact, the negative impact that the Romanian investors had on a lot of the startups from this ecosystem. So again, we were lucky that after we went to the accelerator in Sweden, we basically got out of the ecosystem a bit and started seeing other ways of doing. And I think there's still, investors in Romania haven't yet understood that, and I'm not talking about generalized, and not everyone, there are exceptions, but as a general rule of thumb, they haven't yet understood that in startups, it's all about increasing the size of the pie and winning together rather than me taking from your pie. And this mindset of negotiating with the startup and just taking from their plate to yours is just anti-constructive. So basically, I think I need to give a shout out to Rumen from Launch Hub, who told me he's an investor from Bulgaria. But his story, I think, is one of the most amazing stories from this region, because what he said is that when they started, they realized that they had no idea how investment is done and how to do it. And then they went to an investor with a lot of experience to ask for help. And it was probably a humbling moment, and it was probably personally painful, but it was the best thing they can do. And now you see that in the mindset that they have, they're years ahead of the ecosystem.
So I think from the beginning, just because we had a website in English, we got a lot of inbound requests from different countries. I think our second, third client was from Australia, and she's still a client today.
She's growing her company. Kudos to her.
Yes. And we were just there to say yes, and we were saying like, hey, yes, this is the product. It's in English. If you want to use it, you can use it. And this is how we acquired also our first clients in Greece and Spain and a lot of different markets like this. Like we didn't have the local language. We didn't have support people to help in those countries, but it was the early adopters that were willing to give it a try and to use it even in English. And some of the early clients actually translated the platform, and this is how we ended up to have multiple languages, which was great. Like they were very passionate.
Our Greek is not that great, so
yeah, no, not at all. And then I think after our seed round, it was the moment when we were having, I think, clients in 16 different countries at that point, and it was a bit too much, and we didn't really know how to choose, like where to stop, where to continue to say yes. And after our seed round, we were a bit more serious, and the investors also helped us into like taking this decision, and that's when we shifted focus to the North American markets, US and Canada. And since then, I think we got some peace of mind knowing that, okay, this is where we focus, this is where we go full force. We are still supporting the clients that we had in the other markets, but we are not investing extra resources into that or like in acquiring new clients.
And I can totally relate to everyone that's going through this, because again, we went through the same challenge, and you have investors or people asking you, what's your market? Where are you going to focus? And you're like, I don't know, honestly.
So exploring.
We're still exploring. So we were lucky that we got to see clients in 16 countries. We got to understand how they operate, how they work. Then we started drilling down a bit on understanding how those markets are, how big they are, what's the dynamic. And then after quite some time, we were able to make the decision with US. So basically, we took 3 criteria items, and we said, okay, based on this, US would be the best market for us right now.
We wanted to believe that we can sell the same product or sell in the same way across all those different countries. And this is what it looks like maybe in the beginning. Like, okay, the product is not that different. There are still people. How different can they be? But when you actually drill down and you want to scale that customer base, you realize it's actually very different, and you can't really sell the same product or in the same way across 16 different countries.
Yeah. I might have an opinion. So I would say it was, for us, of course, easier to start from Romania because of all the network and everything that was built here. And also because of all the support network that nobody talks about, which is related to from your family, friends, and everyone that's okay with you not answering phone calls because you're working all the time, but they will still answer your phone call when you call. So all of that. But I would say it's easier to start from Romania because of course, lower investment needs at the beginning. It's a lot more of a scrappy mentality of trying to figure out resources wherever we don't have, we make it somehow happen. There's also a bit of grit that I think we don't appreciate that much in the Romanian culture, but there is a lot of grit. Like you get used to people telling you no, and you're like, we'll find a way. So that's something
and I think the bootstrapping mentality is also there, and you really need that in the beginning, or maybe even later, if you don't get funding. And yeah, like we still feel, or like we still look a bit at our business like we are bootstrapping, or like kind of having the possibility to maybe go back to that. And I think this really helps us also like make maybe smarter decisions in some situations. It can have a downside as well, of course. But
so yeah, to answer that one, I think there is a big advantage starting in Romania.
Yeah, first of all, I think like in the last few years, like we've seen the whole ecosystem grow a lot, and we are very close, for example, with Rubik Hub, which is growing kind of the next generation of startups and founders. And kind of year after year, we see better startups, better quality of founders. And it's just impressive, like what's the difference from 4 or 5 years ago to now. And if we only continue on this growth, I think in 5 years, we're going to be like in a very good place. But also, I think this rhythm is going to be accelerated much, much more. So probably next year, the startups will be even more amazing, and like just keep going from there.
Yeah. Also take into account that we've also been lucky because there was a generation before us that already had some success, and all that knowledge has trickled down a bit into our generation, which now everything we're doing will help the next one. So it's all about giving back and helping the next generations grow, because they will have a much faster rhythm as a result of all the learnings that we're having now. Yeah.
There are a few things. I would say hardworking, the grit that you mentioned before, a bit of the bootstrapping mentality, not taking no for an answer, always finding a way, not giving up even when things are hard. Those would be my top. Did I leave any to you?
Trying to think. There's something regards with when you grow up in Romania, you grow up in a system that's less structured. And I think there's something that impacts us in a way that if you go now in the US and everything is happening in a certain way, our mind will be first going to, how do I go around it? How do I change things? So it is a bit of disruption type of mindset that we're used to, because we're lacking, as we grow, super strict systems. While someone growing in a more, let's say, UK, US, where there's a lot of structure, it's going to be less of a habit to try to change, disrupt, because you trust so much the system that why would you change it? But for us, we never had the real system. We were building the system as we grew. And
we were used to challenge the status quo, right? So we just keep doing this.
Yeah. And this is a big impact that I don't think it's quite obvious when you look at it the first. Like the first ones are the grit and everything else, but this is a secondary effect that I think it's a lot fundamentally to who we are. And then we can talk about also 20 other disadvantages that we have with our mindset. But yes, this is, I think, one of the pros that's super positive. So again, with the round that we got, we unlocked a lot of growth for North America. Right now, we're in 5 out of the top 20 largest vet groups in the US, and our plan is to make sure that we're in the majority of them, and so start working with them in the following 12 months. Now, it's more of a question of building the leadership team. How fast can we do that? And then expanding the scale of clients that we already have in the US. So those would be the main focuses for the next period. From zero to hero. Okay, oh, that was cheesy, but I tried.
You can do it.